computer. Here we are. So folks, thank you for joining us on the Go for Diamond call this evening. This is a call that is more of a practical call where we interview individuals or we have special hosts. This evening we have Dr. John Kindle, and I wanted to read his bio. I know that some of you know him, you heard this before, but some of you on Facebook Live and some of you that are maybe new getting into Max, you may not know this humble gentleman. Dr. John is a family doctor. It's a GPS in Ottawa, Ontario. And Dr. John, you can define GPS. I don't know the details, but let me just read your bio here. Dr. John is one of those rare individuals who knew his calling at a very young age. He was 12 years of age, and in grade 7 when he knew that he wanted to be a medical doctor. He says he always remembered the uproar that occurred when he was entering high school from grade 8. And I remember those days too, and had decided to take a course in typing rather than Latin. And the guidance counselor at his school was extremely upset, telling him that he could never be a medical doctor without a background in Latin. So, well, today he can say he can use a computer, can't speak Latin, but continue to see patients on a daily basis with his clinic in Ottawa. And I know that today, because of COVID-19, he actually does home, and you can share some of the details here, Dr. John, home care and using webinars and all of this stuff, which is absolutely wonderful, in Ottawa. And he continues with his patients. And he doesn't know Latin. I thought it was interesting to share. It was kind of a nice little comedy here. Dr. John attended the paramedic and medical school in Kingston, Ontario, and graduated in 1972 with his medical degree. He then went to specialize in family medicine at the University of Western Ontario, where he graduated with a CCPF in 1974. He has practiced family medicine in Ottawa for 34, now it's more than 34 years. I think it's 40 some years, 46 years. Please feel free to correct me, Dr. John, after that, because this bio was a few years old. And a brief stay in Tennessee in 1998 when he was assessing the United States medical system, immigrating from Canada to practice in a warmer climate. Dr. John has a special interest in preventive medicine, and he has seen too many patients over the years developing severe medical problems leading to disabilities and death, and yet they seem to do everything right. Okay, so I'll let you kind of expand on that, Dr. John. So Dr. John and Tammy and I really want to thank you for joining in. And you're a very, very humble man, someone with your credential to take the time to spend with us to share some of your knowledge. And I know tonight's topic is flu season is coming. And because of COVID-19, it kind of overlaps. It gets a little bit overwhelming. And I know that you want to address, some of those points, but I want to thank you for joining in this evening, Dr. John.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that introduction. I see Miss Ireland in grade 8 telling me that, and just aghast that I wasn't going to take Latin in grade 9. And every time I hear that, I get so many flashbacks of life in Kingston, training in Western Ontario. The night I'm covering for the intensive care unit, and I don't even know how to read an ECG, and being called in to take blood samples after the intravenous team can't do it, and this is like your first time at it. So down memory lane. Oh, Chris, and you're giving my credentials, the CCPF. It's the CCFP. It must be the French that you did there, the CCPF.
My apologies.
No problem. I just thought you threw in a bit of your French knowledge here. Tonight's topic is influenza, flu season, pandemic, twindemic. Should we have flu shots? How does the body stay healthy to combat the changes that are going on in all our lives? And I must say, I really did go into medicine to help people. And I thought I could make a big difference. And I really enjoyed medicine, especially my first 15, 20 years, because I actually went to the hospital every single day, and I admitted people that were sick, and I saw them through their illness, and then followed them up in the office afterwards. And If they had an acute abdominal pain, I'd go in assisted surgery. But things have changed quite a bit. Right now, with COVID hitting, I don't even see the patients. Today was a heavy day for me. I haven't been in the office for 2 weeks, and I saw 4 people. But I talk to an awful lot on the phone, and I do videos, and try and answer people's questions and relieve some of the anxiety. You know, the elderly couple I saw in the office today, she's 82, he's 80. She broke her left hip in December, broke her right hip 2 months ago. Really not getting along very well in life. And, you know, the perfect candidate for COVID to take a big chunk of her life. And, you know, I mentioned the flu shot, and she said, well, I never had them. I don't believe in them. And then her husband said, you know, I took the flu shot last year and I was sick most of the winter. And I hear this all the time. I was not much in favor of flu shots from probably age 50 till 65. But I've changed my mind, not necessarily that I think I need it, but I know that in Ottawa, the Queensway Carleton Hospital had to cancel every winter. Surgeries are canceled because there's no beds left, and the beds are filled by, you know who? We call them seniors. That's guys like me, over 65. And I just didn't want to be part of that. So I've been having the flu shot for a number of years. Those of you who know my story about the H1N1 flu, which is a very, very serious flu, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I was seeing people in the office coughing on me who truly had the H1N1 flu, and it had a significant fatality rate. So I was on our products. It's all about your immune system to keep your cells healthy. And I was taking some glutathione accelerators. And at that time, it was we only had one product. I was taking the 3 capsules in the morning, 3 capsules in the evening. But when I was surrounded by people with the H1N1 to protect my immune system, I said, hey, the more I take, the better for my immune system. So I went on, instead of 3 and 3, I was taking 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 3 in the evening, and sometimes an extra 3 as well for about 6 weeks to protect myself, because the immune system is our only protection. Our immune system helps us stay healthy and ward off what we get in the air, the water, the food, the toxins that are in our body. We need to excrete them. And unfortunately, we don't have a very healthy population these days. My job, which was once sort of helping people stay healthy, is, as my patients have aged, it's a job of monitoring chronic disease. And unfortunately, for a lot of these people, it's lifestyle that produced this. They didn't exercise enough, they didn't eat well enough, and their immune system just let them down at a crucial time. Come February, when I'm covering for my group, it's not unusual for me to see 10 or 15 people in an evening, all with the same complaint. The complaint is cough, 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 and half the time they cough through the entire visit, and they're looking for the miracle. They're looking for the antibiotic to clear up their problem. Well, we're beginning to understand the evils of antibiotics. Antibiotics, they affect the good bacteria in our intestine. You know, it was only about 10 years ago now that I've had my first lecture on the role of the bacteria, viruses of our gut to protect us from disease. And when we look back, we may not have been doing such a good thing to give the antibiotics to everyone who came in with a runny nose. And certainly in my years of a large pediatric practice, there were parents who would not leave the office if they didn't get an antibiotic for little Johnny's cough, little Johnny's runny nose. And I think we're beginning to see now what this has done to the population. Some of the naturopaths are talking about, the leaky gut syndrome, which isn't really a medical term, but it makes sense. When you injure your intestine enough, you get these toxins coming in out of your gut into the bloodstream, which shouldn't be there, and all these new sicknesses that I never saw before. My own wife has celiac disease that she developed, I would say, about 6-7 years ago, and it took us about 3 years to diagnose it, because celiac is something that you expect to have at birth, but celiac is now occurring in the 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds who have been previously diagnosed with a condition called irritable bowel syndrome. Now, saying all that, how do we stay healthy? And is there really a COVID virus? Because I was watching CNN the other night, and I saw this quite respectable fellow, looked like a lumberjack shirt, somewhere in Texas, saying that he believed that this was all a hoax when he was asked on air why he wasn't wearing a mask. He said, well, you don't need a mask. I have every right to substitute my health, not even think about what he can do to other people and spread this to other people. So the disease is real, folks. I give you Exhibit A. Does this show up? This is the headlines in today's paper. This is my.
No, it's coming through.
You can see the headlines.
Yes, very clear.
This is today's paper. Okay, COVID-19 cases surge in Ottawa. The COVID's here. It's spreading rapidly. We need to protect ourselves. We need to improve our immune system. We need to wear masks. We need to wash our hands. I have this article talks about the surge that's happening. New cases in some of the extended care homes in Ottawa. There's a place called Laurier Manor, which I used to visit many, many years ago. I had two of my patients get COVID. Two of my patients who worked in the long-term care home. And we don't really understand why some people get really, really sick and die, and others are almost asymptomatic, meaning they have no symptoms at all, and others get the COVID, get better in 14 days. Others are what we call the long haulers. Long haulers are people that get COVID and they seem to recover, except they're left with this chronic fatigue, weakness, blood pressure problems, inability to stand without being dizzy. And we're understanding now that COVID is actually a disease of blood vessels. When we look at what's coming ahead, the flu season is what the epidemiologists are talking about, the twindemic. When we get the flu season here, and the people are getting ill from the influenza, and at the same time we've got COVID circulating, it's going to be very difficult to know which is which. And I think we're going to see more and more of this spread in the fall when we're not social distancing outside at restaurants. I think we're going to have more closures. I don't want to be a harbinger of panic, as we learned that President Ford did not want to be one to panic the troops of the United States. So just tell everyone it's all going to go away. Well, I wish it would. So can we get some help with vaccinations, immunizations? I now started taking the flu shot a couple of years back. I just don't want to be one of those seniors that ends up in a hospital. And I can't very well promote it to my patients because my patients do not have my immune system. And it's very difficult for me to say to them, oh, you should have a flu shot if I haven't decided to have one myself. So I tell my patients I've had a flu shot, and I'm just trying to help protect them from what's ahead, because unfortunately, I can't tell them what the real best thing in the world to do. The best thing in the world is to take ribosine and supplements that will allow the body to generate more glutathione in our cells, and that's going to help our immune system protect us. We talk about immunizations and vaccines. we have made some amazing strides with some of the vaccines. As a young boy, my dad was a geologist, and he would be prospecting north of Whitehorse, 300 miles north of Whitehorse. And I remember going up as a young boy with my mother in the car and my dad up north, and we camped outside of Whitehorse. And I'll never forget, my dad said, because we can't go into town because there's an outbreak of polio in town. What's polio, Dad? Well, it just makes you paralyzed. And we started we got the Salk vaccine, which was a lifesaver for so many in prevention of polio. And polio is not completely eradicated in the world, but it's almost eradicated in the world. I started to see as a medical doctor what we call the post-polio syndrome. Those are the people that got polio when they were 10 years old, and I started to see them at 50 and 60, and they seem to have recovered, but enough of the nerve fibers had been damaged through polio that they started to get the post-polio syndrome. And there's not many of them left. They've mostly died off, and I had a few of them, and they became chronically ill patients in their 60s. It's important, again, it's all about our ability of the immune system to heal us, to cleanse us, to take the toxin out of our system. And every time I'm having some fruits and tomatoes, I buy from the local gardeners here, and I say to myself, I wonder what kind of pesticide is on these, and how just putting them in the colander and running some cold water over them is really going to clean them properly. And I'm worried about all of the toxin that we're getting in our system, and I want my body to cleanse it as much as possible. And there's nothing better to cleanse your body than a good level of glutathione. Glutathione is high level in the liver, and this is where we cleanse. We get rid of the toxins. Gentleman I saw today, and blames it on the COVID for him to gain his weight because he can't go to the gym anymore. And he comes in with his sore back, 62 years of age, 5 feet 6 inches, weight of 245 pounds. And I examine him, and everyone comes in thinking that there's the magic cure that the doctor's going to give you. And I said, you got to start doing some exercise. You got to lose some weight. And, well, it's COVID, and I'm under stress, and eating more than I should. And that's when I pull out the, I don't have a lot of overweight 75-year-old patients. Why is that, doctor? Well, because they're all dead. They all died. They died of heart disease. They died of all kinds of other problems. And if you wait till you're 65 to start exercising, your joints are gone when you're carrying around an extra 40, 50, 60, 70, or 100 pounds. I often tell people, when I was very young, I paid 25 cents to see people that were overweight at the Ottawa exhibition. Now they come into my office, 350 pounds. I think my top is 397. And you ask these people what they have for breakfast, and 90% of them say, well, I'm not hungry in the morning, I just have a coffee. You've got to eat properly. We'll do one on proper eating one day, Chris, because having been dieting for most of my life until I realized I didn't even have to read the book. The book was entitled Diets Don't Work. And diets don't work. You have to change your lifestyle, have to change your eating habits, you have to change the kinds of food you eat and the volumes of food you eat and what you drink. But that's a tangent. The other part of this wonderful article this morning, I think we should just have a quick look at this. Can you see the bottom there? Let me move my thing here. This one here.
Raise it up a little bit, and
it says, struggling retailers in survival mode as fears of second pandemic wave loom. Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is to get into the business part of this. There has never been a better time to talk about the business of promotion of health products to keep us healthy and have a successful business at the same time. Those of you from Ottawa, in the Glebe, the ones that have gone out of business, David's Tea, Bowman's on Bank, the Collabo Cafe, the Flight Center. Yeah, not many people are flying these days. The BGO Boutique, and also announced that it's closing. And then on top of that, the Lansdowne Park Wonder Center of retail business, there's 15,000 square feet there of open space where they've used the words abandoned, stores have abandoned the space. And these are well-known companies like Structube, PetSmart. Hey, how could PetSmart give in? Well, the dogs and cats got to eat. I don't quite understand why they would pack it in, unless people are actually eating their dogs through starvation these days with no income coming in. It's a crisis. It's a crisis. A crisis would be so much worse, except our government has tried to make it as easy for people. I know there are people that didn't need or weren't really eligible, but applied for the CERB and got extra money. We're kind of in Canada a little bit too comfortable that we're going to be looked after by the state. And what you're looking for in your business is the entrepreneur, the person who really wants to make a go of it and has an open mind of how they can build this business. Here we are here, look at this. On page 2, can you read that? Second wave is coming. It says second wave could topple. It says, it looks like bizarre, but I cut off the business. The second wave could topple business. Folks, it's bad. We're going to lose probably 50 to 60% of all of the restaurants in this country. And that goes for the wait staff, the chefs, people that, and the Uber drivers that did Uber Eats. This is an opportunity where you have a chance to promote health, and the biggest part of it is you got to take the Max products, which are going to increase your glutathione level, which everybody needs. And I tell you this with my all sincerity. Here I am going on 73, and 7 days a week, I get on that machine behind me, that's Stairmaster. Can you all have a good look at it? There it is. I get on that 7 days a week, and I do my stretches on the floor beforehand. I've had 3 episodes this year of maybe a week of back pain from lifting something improperly, too heavy groceries into the back of the car, and I had difficulty putting on my socks. But that stressed to me the importance of getting down on that mat, which I've been doing for many, many years, and doing my stretches every single morning before I get on the Stairmaster to get a really good sweat. Now, the fellow I saw this morning, who's 245 pounds and hoping that there's a miracle I can do for his back, I said to him, I said, well, you know, you called me 2 weeks ago, and I'm finally seeing you today, and 2 weeks ago the pain was 10 out of 10. You've been to 3 different chiropractors, not even listened to one, but gone from chiropractor to chiropractor looking for the miracle one treatment to fix it. And he was actually, his level of pain was down to about 4 out of 10, and he's got a friend who's helping him exercise. And I said, well, you doing exercise? Oh yeah, I'm doing exercise every day. And I kind of said, well, I guess as soon as the back pain goes away, you can stop all that crazy exercise, can't you? And he kind of looked at me, and he didn't know what to say, because the story I hear over and over and over again, people are really, really concerned about their health when it hurts. As soon as the hurt goes away, they don't care anymore. they're waiting for the next doctor who's going to diagnose it and fix it for them, and fix it with a pill or an MRI to find out the real cause. And I tell people, the MRI is done on your back prior to arranging the plans for surgery. But it's kind of a commonplace test now to try and find out, well, for people that are looking for the underlying disease and the cure that can happen. Can't believe I've rambled for almost half an hour tonight. But I do kind of ramble at times, except when you're in the office and I got to know the symptoms. I zero in the symptoms and I try to get people to stop the extraneous stuff. I had a guy this week, by the way, tell you how the system works. The guy this week I had to call him about his mucus in his throat. And I'm starting to get the story. And then he says, the mucus causes me a bit of chest pain when I'm walking up the hill. He goes for a mile walk every day. Well, and he was making so little of this. I said, okay, for the next week, every time you go for a walk, I want you to concentrate and make sure you note down what's happening in your chest, what's happening to your breathing. So a week later, he actually called me on the date he was supposed to call him, because we were not seeing him in the office, all virtual. And he says, well, last night I didn't sleep because the pain came back and it was there during the night. I said to him, you're going to the hospital. And I hear his wife say, oh no. And I said, get your wife on the phone. Oh yes, he's going to the hospital. He's got to go to the hospital in the next hour or two. Anyway, he goes at noon hour, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm getting stuff faxed to me from the hospital about his cardiac catheterization and putting 3 stents in his coronary arteries. This is a non-smoker who's not overweight, whose cholesterol isn't particularly bad, but he has the sin of turning 70 years of age. And I'm afraid when I tell people about what it was like in medical school at 72 was a common age to pass on. And when somebody had bad heart disease or anything when I was in medical school, 72 was an old age, and we just said to ourselves, well, it's old age he's dying of at 72. Well, what we've managed to do is we've managed to treat the heart disease and put the stents in at 70. So now we've got a whole bunch of 85 to 95-year-olds who are really, really chronically ill. And I watched a thing on TED Talks this week about a doctor in Australia commenting on various that happen in intensive care units. Do you know that in Florida, 3 out of 5 people die in the intensive care units? In other words, they're being tried to keep them alive one more time, one more double paddles on them to bring their heart back, one more tube feeding, one more stomach feeding. I have a lady that I've been seeing for 35, 40 years, and you know, she got horrible Alzheimer's. I know this is off topic, but the horrible Alzheimer's, she can't walk, she can't talk, but they lift her out of bed, put her in a chair, and she's part of the family for the past 3 years. And I tell my children, I don't want you to do that to me. When my time comes, but I want to enjoy every single day till then. I don't want to stay active, I don't want to stay well. And as I said in my Max story, I guess 4 years ago, I'm training for the most important marathon of my life, and that's my senior years. And you got to train for it. You got to exercise. You got to eat well. You got to take supplements to stay healthy on a cellular level. And I tell you, I am so impressed with what the glutathione accelerators have done for me that I should be a poster boy for wellness. And,
you know, Dr. John, sorry for intervene. Your story is quite compelling, and there's a lot of people that never heard your story. in reference to the relationship with glutathione enhancement. If that's okay with you, there's a lot of new listeners here, and also there's some folks on Facebook Live listening in. There's a group of people from West Africa and East Africa and the Philippines that might listen to that tomorrow evening, tomorrow morning, whatever. And I'm sure they'll be very curious to hear the relationship that you have with glutathione enhancement and the healing process that you had when you went through your own operation.
Yeah, you know, I'm one of these really super healthy, lucky guys that I really didn't get sick in my lifetime. I remember one strep throat in university, but I know I had 5 years of perfect attendance in high school without missing a day. Always well. And then in 2003, I went from a Thursday night when I was playing squash to being in the operating room, in the hospital with a bowel obstruction, and I was found to have cancer of my kidney. And that was a huge shock for me, that here I was, the healthiest guy in the world. I got a 6-centimeter cancer, and I had my kidney removed after they fixed my bowel obstruction. I had my bowel obstruction first, and they had to take out a section of my bowel and rejoin it. And then, you know, what I really had was cancer as well. So I called my surgeon 5 weeks later and said, hey, I don't need to wait 6 weeks. I'm healed up. Take my kidney out. And they did. And, you know, that's when I was beginning introduced to the glutathione and would help my body. And that's when I met Dr. Robert Keller, who was the formulator of our very first product when we only had one product. That was the original Max GXL. And I told Dr. Keller, I said, you know, I just had my kidney out. My kidney functions are not normal. When you lose one kidney, you lose the ability to filter properly. And I'll never forget his words. He said, when we increase your glutathione level, we're going to make every cell of your body work to its utmost performance, and the one kidney you've got left will work at a higher level and be better for you. And here I am today at 73 with a normal filtration rate. The eGFR is normal. My creatinine is normal. And to me, that's a testament to the health that I have inside, that with one kidney, I'm doing extremely well. And I took that as a wake-up call that I was not as healthy as I thought, that I had bad disease inside me. And that's when I started to look at the glutathione accelerators and to learn about something I had never, ever heard of in my life. Never heard the word glutathione. And when I heard there were 77,000 articles in the medical literature, that really intrigued me. I said, how could this possibly be? And of course, today we're about 130,000 articles in the medical literature. And I tell people who want to research this, I say, just Google anything, breast cancer and glutathione, asthma and glutathione, arthritis and glutathione, and just see what comes up, because there's a lot of papers there. And we are very fortunate in Max International to have the most potent glutathione accelerator called ribosine. And ribosine is in most of our products that we have. And I take all of them. I've done glutathione levels on myself. I have the highest glutathione level of any of my patients that I've ever measured. And I just know that this is helping me stay healthy and become an active senior who can exercise when he wants to, can go for brisk walks. Why do I go for walks? Because I can. You know, I like to go for walks for no other reason than I can do it. I like to do my Stairmaster, I like to do my stretches because I can still do it, and I want to continue to do it.
I remember, Dr. John, when I was playing, that's a few years back here, but still, you know, I'm probably 30 some years younger than, you know, 20 some years, you're 25. I'm not sure exactly. I'm 54. You say, okay, so let's say about 30 years or so. And I was playing squash with you. And it was one of the most difficult challenges to keep up with the ball. Man, are you ever on shape? And I mean, obviously the COVID might have changed things, but do you still play?
No, my shoulder's given out, so I don't want to play. But my rest of the body's good. You know, if you got 2 minutes, a little story here. You mentioned
Go ahead.
squash. One of the gentlemen I played with 35 years ago, regularly at the Ottawa Athletic Club. He became a patient of mine 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and he developed Parkinson's disease. And Parkinson's slows you right up. You can't walk quickly. You get tremors in your hands. It really makes a big change. And against, I don't usually talk about products in the office, but I said, hey, Terry, there's a video with Dr. Oz talking about glutathione and Parkinson's. You might want to try this. And Terry might have visited the website, but he said, I don't think I'm ready to try that yet. And I said, oh, well, okay, Terry. And then 2 or 3 years later, he's doing some activities with his kids, and he actually ruptures his quadriceps tendon. It rips right in two, and he goes to the hospital, and they sew it up, and he's seeing him in the office, can hardly walk. Life's complete misery for him, pain. And I said, Terry, I mentioned 2 years ago about something that might help your Parkinson's disease. You might want to look at this since you're feeling so badly. And his answer was, well, I'm going to wait till I'm feeling better. And he's still my patient. He's worse than ever. And I've never mentioned the product since because I don't want him to call the college on me. But you're going to find, as an associate of Max, there are people who are going to love to gravitate to this information, and you're going to find people that just cannot believe and won't do the research to look at it. But if you take the time and do the research, and you don't have to look at Max International, just look at glutathione sites and learn about glutathione. And if there's something out there that can improve your glutathione level, you better damn be on it. And that's my closing statement.
And Dr. John, on that note, there was a question from Anna in reference to a friend who has Parkinson's disease. So you kind of answered that because it's very difficult, folks, for us, especially coming from a Canadian doctor. There's a lot of restrictions, and again, no disrespect meant to the college association of the Medical Association in Canada, but I understand the reasoning why they do all of this, but it makes it difficult for us to go into details. But there's some really good documentation, and I posted a link there called PubMed. That's a medical publication that is maintained by the AMA, the American Institution, and not sure if I call it right, association in the United States that are it's like a Google of research when it comes to pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals. And if you search, and that's what Dr. John meant earlier, if you're searching for glutathione and just use your imagination within the context of the search engine of pubmed.gov or .org or .com, it takes you to the same space. You will find a lot of great information. Some might be a little bit technical, but some might be quite readable for the average folks like ourselves that are trying to educate ourselves. And some of you are also probably quite educated on the human anatomy and so forth. So again, it's just to give you a sense of direction. When Dr. John meant earlier, search, it's within the context of pubmed.gov. Now you can Google it too, of course, but PubMed will give you probably a bit more detailed information. Would you agree with me, Dr. John?
Yes, for sure. And I sometimes do that, but I really find it so confining in the Canadian healthcare system that I can't promote these in my office. And that's a huge problem. And I understand entirely why. I mean, you can't have doctors promoting the stuff we see on TV. Prevagen can improve your memory, clinically studied, without telling us what the clinical studies are. We have the clinical studies. Those of you who might be listening for the first time, I forget how many now, 25 to 30 studies on our ribosine product, and that really impressed me when I saw the science behind the ribosine, having learned the science behind our first product, the ribosine seemed much more powerful in helping boost my glutathione level. So I transferred to, first thing in the morning, max ATP. I take my max 357. I take Celgevity. I take Infuse. These are all products that I think help me stay healthy, and it's all about health. If you want to enjoy life, you got to be healthy.
Yes, I totally agree. And by the way, Bill Sechuk here mentioned a bit of documentation here, which is the PubMed Central, I guess the European version, which has quite a bit of information there too. So feel free to search that. Now, at this point, folks, it is 8:42, and I also want to respect Dr. John's time. If there's any questions that you may have in relation to our Max products and how can someone best benefit, please do feel free to post it. In the meantime, Dr. John, do you have any maybe last words that you'd like to share with the listeners on what you think would be the takeaway that you would like them to leave with?
Well, I didn't talk about this medical paper, but I did on a previous call talk about the endogenous deficiency of glutathione as the most likely cause of serious manifestations and death in COVID-19 patients. This medical paper out of Russia by a researcher, he's basically saying that how come the elderly are prone to death with COVID? And he speculates, because he's a glutathione researcher, speculates it's because, as we know, as we get older, our glutathione level is not what it was when we were younger. We lose it as we get older, and when it gets low enough, you're subject to so many diseases. So it's really important to get on this supplement to help keep yourself healthy. It's hard enough to do it on your own, but this helps you. This gives you the energy to exercise. It decreases the inflammation, so you have less pain in your joints. It's so vitally important. And to be an associate, all you have to do is take 2 products a month into your home. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is one of the things that I know that makes me feel very proud. And I probably speak for everybody on this call here that are associates. I believe most of them are. Is we're really dealing with an opportunity that provides a tangible service to society, because one is we're helping folks at least being aware of alternatives to be able to consume nutraceuticals that can really subsidize or help us live a better quality of life when it comes to the toxicity level that we're exposed to in our environment. But in the same time, as I often say, instead of feeding the fat cats and the corporations and the big pharmas out there, no disrespect meant, but the consumers, people like you and I, are getting compensated for telling other consumers, but still not, undermining the science and the credibility behind it. We have the best of both worlds. And I really appreciate, Dr. John, from your point of view on the importance of having a plan B, especially today when our society is changing, the economy is changing, the way we're earning money is changing. And here's an alternative way to earn an income. You can do it on a part-time basis while you're doing your job. And while you're doing this part-time basis venture, this can grow and actually surpass the current job. And this is what happened to my wife and I. In fact, we wrote a book on it. So it's absolutely real. And there's a lot of folks across Canada, United States that are earning anywhere between $500 to $700 to $1,500 to $2,000 and some way more around the world with this particular venture. And again, this is a choice. Sorry, Dr. John, I kind of plugged that in a little bit here, but right now I don't see any other questions. So please go ahead.
Sorry, so you're asking me, or?
Yeah. Just to kind of your last words as we finish the call here. We'll finish on this note.
Oh, this is my third last word.
I know. I'm putting you on the spot here. See, we can't get enough of you, Dr. John. You are so,
Is,
you have such a vast,
you know, my last
I
words
know
is,
you're holding a lot of information. Please go ahead.
oh, you haven't started the journey of wellness yet. Many of you take the products, but you haven't really started the journey. You think the products are all you need. It's not. You got to put the effort in, and you got to do the exercise, and you got to lose the weight. You got to eat properly. As I say, I'm a guy that dieted from age 15 till age 64 maybe, and I could always lose 10 or 15 pounds, but I gained it right back. As the guy said this morning, oh, I lost 40 pounds, but I gained it back. Well, you didn't lose it. You just yo-yoed like I did all my life. And when I finally started to educate myself with documentaries on the food systems we're eating, that was the eye opener. When I realized that big pharma now was big corporate grocers that were filling my desire for sugar, and I had to get that out of my system. My favorite, up until about 18, from 14 to 18, Frosted Flakes,
I used to love those.
pieces of stuff with sugar on them, and Crunch and everything. And I didn't think there's anything wrong with that. But when young kids today start on that, it's sad because their bodies are shot by the time they're 30. You know, so we gotta before the pandemic hit, I thought we had a chance. I thought we could get some education into the schools, but you know, it's really sad what's ahead. So save yourselves, save yourselves. Listen to me. Start exercising. Make some changes in the head, and say, I'm going to change tomorrow, and do one little step at a time. One less teaspoon of sugar. One less glass of orange juice. I had orange juice every day. Orange juice isn't good for you. Just read the package. We haven't been able to put the amount of grams of sugar. We put teaspoons. Everyone understands what a teaspoon of sugar is. No one understands what a gram is, unless you're selling dope on the side. But you know, orange juice is about 26, 27 grams of sugar per glass, and it's 4 grams of sugar to 1 teaspoon. So you're loading up early in the morning. So it's a slow process. It's education. Maybe I can do one on the food system and talk about Metaswitch. I got a bottle of Metaswitch today for the first time in I
love that product.
Probably about 3 or 4 months. And my wife says, "What are you doing taking Metaswitch? Aren't you light enough?" I said, "Well, this is how I got where I was. The Metaswitch helped me a great deal."
Dr. John, there's a, sorry for cutting in, there's a question here, and we can probably finish on this because I think it's really, really relevant from Anthony. My question is, what is the best response to folks who sounds like fruits and food for immune boosting is enough instead of adding the max products? In other words, you know, just by eating fruits and, you know, products that have antioxidants is enough. I don't need the max products. What would be a response to that?
Well, number one, those fruits are to a large extent genetically modified. They're not the same kind of fruit that we got from grandma.
That is so.
So don't have the nutritional value. They've been genetically modified to taste sweeter because we have to have that sweet taste, and so we're getting poor quality of fruits. And not to mention the toxins that these things have been sprayed with. So yes, it's important to have these fruits, and I have them every day, but I also understand that if I can get a precursor to my body's ability to generate more glutathione, I won't have to take a bulk of asparagus to get my body's glutathione up. I can take a concentrated product with ribosine, which will allow my body to generate more glutathione. And every day we thank Max for bringing this to us. It's been a wonderful experience that I stumbled on this through yourself, Chris, and Marie Paul, to understand that don't think I would be the way I am today if I had not been exposed to these. And I guess more than that, was willing to listen.
Mhm.
You know, that's the big part. The parachute, the mind is like the parachute. It only works if it's open.
Mhm.
And if you don't have an open mind, and you think you have all the answers,
Mhm.
that's a big mistake. And those are the closed mind people that I'm afraid you can't change them, and don't even try.
Well, Dr. John, listen, I really, really appreciate your time. And I know on behalf of the team here, we really, really appreciate the knowledge base that you've shared with us through stories and in conversation. So I'm just going to stop the recording on that note here.